Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I'm your host, music producer Chicken with Beats, and I'm glad that you've joined me. Today's episode is special. It's the International Women's Day edition in honor of International Women's Day, which is March 8th. And so I'm going to be taking the time to highlight some conversations that I've had with some of the amazing women that have been on my show so far. And of course, there'll be beats and music industry news, so I'm excited to go ahead and bring this to you. Before I go ahead and drop that first beat, I'd like to give a shout out to my home station, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And with that, let's go. producer Chickwood Beats, back with the Music Biz Brief. First up, a federal appeals court overturned BMI's 2023 rate court win against major concert promoters, ruling that the 138% increase in live performance royalties was quote-unquote unreasonable, and sending the case back for a new determination. The original decision would have raised songwriter payouts from roughly 0.21% to 0.5% of concert revenue, and expanded gross revenue to include ticketing fees, VIP packages, and secondary sales, but the appeals panel said the lower court relied on quote-unquote flawed benchmarks and improperly broadened revenue definitions. Judges indicated that a revised rate could still come in higher than the previous structure, but likely below the overturned increase. Some unfortunate news there, but we'll see how that plays out. It appears that TikTok is ramping up its music live streaming with a new LA-based job listing for a music campaign manager specifically focused on TikTok Live. Responsibilities include leading data-driven campaigns to grow the platform's music creator community, developing case studies and educational tools, and analyzing specific behaviors and pain points of musicians versus lifestyle creators. 130 million users went live on the app last year, and with monetization driven by tips and subscriptions, TikTok is focused on encouraging more music artists to live stream regularly and more effectively. Universal Music Group reported $4.19 billion in revenue for Q4 of last year, up 10.6% year over year, with recorded music generating $3.22 billion of that total. Subscription streaming grew 7.7% to $1.46 billion due to global subscribers increasing, and physical revenue rose 21.3% to $609 million, attributed to strong vinyl sales in the US and Europe. On the publishing side, revenue hit $689.5 million, with sync licensing up 27.4% year over year. A U.S. Supreme Court declined to review a case challenging the Copyright Office's decision that fully AI-generated works are not eligible for copyright protection. Physicist Stephen Thaler tried to register an AI-created image generated by his Dabis system, which courts repeatedly rejected on the grounds that copyright requires human authorship. The current policy is still in place. Works created entirely by AI have no copyright protection in the US, but projects where AI assists a human creator may still qualify. And if you want my 2 cents, that's a good thing, because it's kind of wild to expect to have copyright protection on something that you didn't even create. Anywho, Top Fan, a fan club platform used by major brands and artists like Tool and Maroon 5, is now opening its technology to independent artists. The platform lets creators build fan communities where they can offer exclusive content, live streams, newsletters, and sell merch, tickets, albums, and subscriptions. Artists keep 95% of merch and ticket revenue and 85% of digital sales, while retaining ownership of their fan data, including emails and phone numbers for direct outreach. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you check it out, see if it'll work for you, and applications are open. Apple Music is reportedly introducing new transparency tags that allow labels and distributors to flag when AI was used in parts of a release. The metadata tags can indicate whether AI was involved in elements like the music, lyrics, artwork, or music video. The system relies on distributors to voluntarily apply the tags when uploading music, similar to Spotify's approach, while some platforms like Deezer are instead experimenting with automated AI detection tools. And finally, Idris Elba's independent label Seven Wallace has formed a strategic partnership with Nas's Mass Appeal Records to collaborate on co-releases, cross-market distribution, and original content across music, film, and live experiences. The collaboration aims to strengthen connections between the UK and US hip-hop scenes, following the company's previous joint venture on Slick Rick's Victory project. It'll be interesting to see what's birthed from this connection here. Alright, that's a wrap for the Music Biz Brief. I'm going to take a quick pause for the cause, and then I'll be right back, highlighting some of those conversations with the incredible women that have been on the show so far in honor of International Women's Day. Keep it locked. Hey, I'm a Chick with Beats, multi-genre music producer and strategist to indie artists and labels. Visit achickwithbeats.com for resources for artists and instrumentals in various genres available for songs, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, themes, TV, film, commercials, and more. Once again, that's achickwithbeats.com. That's ACHICKWITBEATZ.com. Let's make something happen.
What up, everybody? This is Fire Free. I am a spoken word poet and author, and I am also a master's level graduate in counseling psychology. I cultivate healing-centered spaces to work through trauma and to build on wellness, resilience, and presence and awareness. And thank you so much, A Chick with Beats, for allowing me to be here today.
Yes, I'm glad you could take time from your schedule to share with us. And so, many artists, they're going through challenges and they need places to put their emotions into their music or whatever it is that they do creatively. How do you think the process of creating music can help both and challenge mental health for artists? Because we know it's kind of like a double-edged sword a little bit. So what are your thoughts on that?
So much. This is a really compound question. And part of my frustration with this is the fact that being in the mental health field and being so dedicated and driven and passionate about trauma, and its contribution to things like suicidality. So we've had to increase suicide awareness and self-injurious behaviors and challenges just with dealing with and navigating mental illness in general. There has not been enough effort and interest in making sure that access to creative outlets have been available. And so now it was just recently, within the last year or so, that it was released that, art and writing is so helpful with trauma. Go figure, right? So to be able to take the time to give people artistic opportunity to kind of delve into reacting and responding to some of their most challenging and some of their most in-depth experiences offers them the opportunity to explore it in a different way. And we really do need to be more open to that culturally.
Hear more on episode 1, Mental Health and Creativity with Fire Free.
Hello, world. Yes, it is my pleasure also. Wynell J. Soul is R&B soul singer. I do R&B, gospel, jazz, a little bit of blues, very eclectic style. Been singing for a very long time. Always really been a singer. Like literally always. Since I was very young, I started off singing gospel in a gospel group with my cousins in Chicago. So I'm originally from Chicago. I do reside in Michigan, but I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, Southeast side. So I've been singing in choirs and churches and weddings and funerals and all of that good stuff since probably about performing since about 8.
Wow. That's so
8
early.
years old. Yeah. Me and my cousins were we started a gospel group. So we always, we went from churches to churches singing, and we actually used to come to Michigan when I was little. That's how I ended up moving to Michigan, because I used to travel to Michigan to different churches to sing. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay. to think about doing that as early as 8 years old, do you recall ever being nervous when you started, or was it just...
Oh gosh. Yes. So funny thing is, I was considered the shy one of me and my cousin's group, but I was, the voice. One of my friends laughed. He was like, "Oh, so you was the Beyonce of the group." I'm like, you know what? Honestly, when I listened to her story about how she started and how she was uncomfortable on stage by herself, that is totally me. Wow. I literally took me a very long time to get up by myself and sing and be comfortable, because I was just so used to my cousins being on the side of me. Even though I was the shy one, I was able to do a lot better, performance wise when I had other people around me for a very long time.
Wow.
So yeah, that was really hard. It was hard when I was young. But I got used to it. Like I said, we used to travel, and I actually forgot about how much we traveled until I was speaking to a friend of mine, and I remembered. I was like, oh shoot, I really used to go to different churches, and I used to come up here to Michigan, and we used to go to churches in Detroit and sing. So yeah.
Wow.
I think my first church we went to in Detroit, I think I was like 12 or 13.
Hear more on episode 3, Recognizing Milestones in Your Music Journey with YNL J Soul.
I am Deep Spawn Logic. I am a jazz fusion artist and music producer, and I am also the host and creator of Artist Spotlight Sunday. I'm currently living in the state of New Jersey. I'm originally from New York, from Brooklyn, New York, but I've spent a lot of my life in New Jersey, so that's where I'm at right now. And music was something that I started in 2020 after a bout of depression. You know, I had some close loved ones pass, and I was in not a good place. And so my husband introduced me to a couple of things, and I just, started dabbling in creating because it helped me focus on something else other than what was going on. And from just the first song I created, I was just hooked, and I really found something that I really, really love to do, and it hadn't stopped yet. So for the past 4 years, I've been creating, producing, and releasing music. So it's become something that I've really, really enjoyed doing.
Okay. Well, there's so many things to be said about producing music, because one, you get to the inspiration from doing the music yourself and then being able to inspire other artists to work with. And we know you've got a lot of collaborations that you've done. Could you maybe offer any advice as far as to any independent artists out there listening who don't really know how to go about approaching others for collaborations, but what type of advice do you have as far as seeking collaborators or, letting them come to you? Like, how do you choose?
In all honesty, I've been very lucky. I have not, I should say, collaborated with anyone I don't know or am comfortable with. I'm still new, so it's more of a comfort thing for me. And I was very scared to venture outside of the people I know. My husband, for those who don't know, my husband is a musician, so we do have other musician friends. So it was being that they were as excited in what I was doing. It was very, I was comfortable going to them, asking them to do something with me.
Hear more on episode 7, Passionate Productions with Deep Spawn Logic. Please let the people know who is Oiku Dogan and, how you got kind of started or pulled into music.
Hi, thank you so much. And thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited as well. And so I'm a singer, songwriter, composer, and also a jazz pianist. I started with music when I was very little, and with piano and composing, writing songs later on. And then I was born in Turkey. I moved to Italy for college to focus on my music studies. So I studied modern vocals and then also jazz piano. I majored in both. In the meantime, I started also producing and releasing my very first songs and then the first album. That's how my music career officially took off. So I still continue, and with all of these things, I continue producing, writing, singing, and releasing. Also, I now, for the last few years, am a vocal coach. That's another thing that I love a lot. So shortly, this is it.
Well, that's a lot, especially having all the talents and then now being able to share that with others, I think is a tremendous thing. So Since you do have so many talents, who are some of the, I guess, maybe biggest musical influences you have? So whether that be other songwriters, other singers, other jazz pianists, like, whatever. Yeah. Who have been your biggest influences, should I say?
Yeah, this is a very difficult and important question. I started with classical music, but also in the meantime grew up with my mom's records, so progressive rock, but at the same time pop. And then I studied jazz, so I have different inspirations from all these different kinds of music, styles of music.
Hear more on episode 11, From Classical Roots to Contemporary Beats with Oiku Dogen. Alexandria B, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got drawn into music, and all the background stuff that we need to know that shows us who you stand for in the world today?
And yep, yes I can. So pretty much how I got drawn into music for the most part is basically how most vocalists have, which is starting off in choirs in church. I was in band in high school and also in choir. So I have a decent amount of music background, not just in like what I use as far as my artistry, but with other things, because I play the drums too. My mom was in the choir with Ricky Dillard in New G, so it's like I've traveled with them before and kind of got reeled in through like the gospel part of the music industry, and she was doing other musical stuff like in the blues scene. So having her influence, having all of the music my dad listened to as far as like, the crack baby music era, like where it was like KRS-One and Tribe Called Quest and stuff like that. Like I listened to those. Of course, I'm a Chicago native, so I listen to house music. What else did you say again?
Oh no, you're doing great.
I don't want to start rambling. So that's the reason
no, you know what? That's actually what this is for. But you already started off pretty strong with some of your influences, and how your parents had kind of groomed you in that aspect. So if you could maybe talk a little bit more about some of those things you mentioned, KRS, Tribe Called Quest. Are there any other singers that stood out to you from like when you were really young before you actually started getting into singing yourself in the church?
I will say, because of my mom, it would have to be Aretha Franklin was the first one, and then like my favorite all-time celebrity, even though she's not like, I can't say this because that's basically being backhanded. My favorite like performer and artist as a whole is Janet Jackson, because her like artistry when it comes to choreography and performance and putting on the show, like I commend it. Beyonce would be next to it. As far as like my favorite vocalist, I would say from like high school all the way up until now, I would say my favorite people would be Jasmine Sullivan, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, and this male singer by the name of Duran Bernard.
Hear more on episode 16, From Raw Talent to Refined Artistry with Alexandria B. Sean, how you doing?
Hey.
It's great to have you on.
How you doing, sis? I'm good.
Good. Well, some people who have been following what I've been doing for a while might remember that you were on the Music Marvels radio show. But since this is your first time on Instrumental Intel, if you could give the people a little bit of the background and how you got into music and all that good stuff.
Wow, music's been around me since birth, my mom playing with her playlist, her playing a lot of jazz. I really started out as a poet, and then from there, like I always was singing. I sang in the church choir, so, that's how I really got started. And then, I started producing. Well, I started tinkering with making beats in like 2008. It was kind of like a touch and go kind of thing, Didn't really, I bought my first equipment, my first MIDI controller in 2010. didn't really get serious until about 2012 on and off, and then seriously started to catch wreck around 2016. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you mentioned, your mom having the playlist for you, the records, whatever was going on. Who are some of your influences specifically that you can recall?
Golly, I would say Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan. Of course, like my big three would be Jill Scott and Erykah Badu and Georgia Ann Muldrow. Those are my big three right there. So I grew up listening to a lot of their music, and everything like that. So yeah.
Hear more on episode 19, Unpacking Hip Hop Production and its Influence with Kershawn.
My name is Kristen Eve. I have been a singer-songwriter since I was 13. I, at that age, fell madly in love with writing music. Same age, I started playing guitar. And truly, since then, it has been the one constant in my life. Like, other things have fallen away, other hobbies, other interests, but that has been the one constant. And ever since then, there hasn't been 1 year that I haven't consistently written music and just continue staying passionate with my music.
That's interesting. You said there's other hobbies that have come and gone, but that one stays constant. And I think that a lot of people listening can probably relate to it, because a lot of times on social media, you'll see people get frustrated and, they might say, I quit, but then a lot of times they kind of come right back. But with that being that constant, especially to be able to continue to write songs consistently, what do you kind of do to get in that zone? Because I know there's been a lot of things that everyone's been going through since the pandemic. But how do you kind of keep that in the forefront and still make sure that you sharpen your craft, as you will?
So I've definitely had seasons where I've had writer's block. I've definitely come and gone from that space. But as far as writing music itself, I think the reason it's always stayed a constant in my life is because it truly does feel like it's a part of me. Almost like I, if you believe in coming to earth or not, I came to earth with that being stitched into my soul. It's truly a part of me. And it's when I have gone through anything in my life, anything hard, any dark chapters, it's always songwriting that I turn to. So for me, I kind of get into that space naturally because it is always the first thing I turn to. No matter what I've been through in my life, I feel like writing music has always been there for me. And I think because at such a young age, I started turning to it when I would go through hard things, it just became my normal.
Hear more on episode 25, Defining Success Beyond Mainstream Fame with Kristen Eve. Adrienne, so thank you for joining me, taking time out of your busy schedule. You were on our previous show, Music Marvels, before, but this is your first time here on Instrumental Intel. So if you could give the people a little bit of background as into who you are and how you first got started with music.
Sure. So I'm a singer, songwriter, and vocal coach, and I've done many things, including being like a performing artist, recording artist, and also doing session vocals. And currently, I'm recovering from like a pretty intense health challenge that stopped me from singing for a while. So I'm now trying to get back into it. But I started out just really loving to write songs, and I remember like my parents gave me the opportunity to have piano lessons, and like my piano teacher would get really frustrated because I would like make up my own songs instead of learning the songs I was supposed to learn.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of like, now that I'm a parent and I see my son do that kind of thing, it's kind of funny to be like, no, like I understand why she was frustrated, but I feel like that creativity, like that spark of like wanting to explore ideas and play with sounds and like just make up your own stuff is like something to be encouraged. I'm glad my parents encouraged me to do that.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, if you had that spark back then, It's just kind of indicative of what was to come. And so it's kind of good that you can see that in your son now and know to, nurture it as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, who were some of your biggest influences from when you got started?
Let me think. Now, so as far as like music, the music that I like really loved growing up was like R&B, soul, gospel, and then also randomly like folk and Irish music. Because they're not really similar, but I can kind of look back and be like, oh, I love like the harmonies and like the groove and the feel and the passion of like R&B and soul. And then you can kind of see like in folk and Irish music, there's a lot of like storytelling.
Hear more on episode 26, Crafting Emotional Connections Through Song with Adrienne Ralph. You've been doing so many things just for the culture. I'd like for you to be able to take a moment and, just kind of share with the listeners who you are and how you got into doing what you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I was excited when I heard that Chick with Beats was reaching out to me. I was like, what? Let me go ahead and take this interview. So shout out to Ultra Mag 7 for that, for putting me in touch with you. So so again, I am Newbie the Ear Hustler. I have a show called We Ear Hustling Baby. And I started out about 3 years ago, actually, in the middle of the pandemic. And so maybe it's 3.5 years ago now. What I did was I started out doing my own show, and then I also reached out to another platform called Weekly Rap Gods. Okay. And I had been watching them, and I noticed that there was a gentleman, his name is Twan Mack, who was hosting these interviews alongside another young lady, and I don't know her name. And I just felt like, you know what, I could do this. And I think this would be the perfect platform because I do have some background in hip hop. And so I reached out to the owner of Weekly Rap Gods. His name is Frankie Salvation. Shout out to Frankie Salvation. And I said, hey, I'd like to audition to become a co-host. And he was like, oh, okay, who would you audition with? And I said, I'll get Chip Fu. And so he's like, okay. And so I did the interview. Chip was gracious enough to let me use him as my first experiment, if you will. And it took off from there. I started doing hip hop interviews there as a co-host with Twan Mack. And then on my page, it was mainly geared towards R&B, actually, when I first started it, because R&B is my first love. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do both. And so I did. And for almost 2.5 years, we did weekly interviews on Weekly Rap Gods. And then I alternated and did weekly interviews on my show.
Hear more on episode 27, chronicling music history, past and present with Newbie the Ear Hustler. So if you could, just kind of give everybody a little bit of background as to who Megan is and how you got into music.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So to start at the beginning, I grew up in a very musical family. My parents are extremely talented musicians, so it's literally in my DNA to be a musician. And so just, all throughout grade school, I was involved in music. I was involved in theater. And in college, I studied acting and music. I sang for a lot of different bands throughout the years. And then I started producing my own music in 2019. And the rest is history.
All right. Well, awesome. You said that, it's in your DNA. Your does music. What types of songs do you remember kind of gravitating towards when you were young, or any special artists?
Oh, I mean, my parents, of course, they had so many different, they did a lot of 80s pop music, but for me, I grew up in the 90s, so I'd say Christina Aguilera was a huge inspiration for me. The different pop singers. I actually really loved Enya too. I don't know if you remember the Pure Moods CD. But yeah, so I there are so many different types of music that I'm drawn to, and I think, you know, as an artist, I don't really want to be confined in that way. I just want to have my own sound, and I think that speaks through all the music that I like.
Absolutely. Especially since you mentioned some of those heavy hitting pop stars.
Yeah.
You know, like how do you kind of get into like your own inspiration? So yeah, even though you grew up listening to them, but like to define your own sound, how do you kind of get in that mode before you start to create?
Oh, let's see. I mean, well, again, I feel like I've just been drawn to so many different genres of music over the years. I mean, I listened to a lot of the punk bands in high school. I listened to Radiohead in college. I mean, I love Bollywood music. So it's just like all across the board.
Hear more on episode 29, Navigating Indie Artist Life, Music, Content, and More with Megan.
My name is Deidre D'Essen-Smith. I am a lecturer for the School of Music, Theater, and Dance for U of M. I'm also a cultural ambassador with the State Department and Next Level program formerly. And also, yes, I facilitate a workshop that is actually the course of my class at U of M called SIMMIT, Speak Your Mind, Mind Your Speech, Recognize and Empowering Your Words. And so I take that workshop and I teach it in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, organizations, colleges, what have you. Wherever I'm beckoned, I answer the call and I educate through art. And so I myself am an MC, sometimes a vocalist, but don't sing as well or as much as I used to. And I'm also a songwriter and recently an author of a children's book that should be released pretty soon.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think that's going to be, for me, the highlight of my career. Wow. But yes, I'm so excited about that. But I'm a Detroit girl, East Side, and I reside on the West Side now. I believe in investing into the city of Detroit, so I'm big on community and sowing back into the city of Detroit the way that it's given to me. And I'm all about amplifying the citizens with my Detroit Everything initiative. And yeah, so I'm kind of like an around the way girl.
I love it. So, okay, right off the top, all my Detroit Everything, the initiative is powerful. I see it all across my social media platforms. So, kudos to you for that. But you did say you want to sow back into the city the way it sowed into you. How do you think that Detroit, if you could quantify it or qualify it with words, how would you say Detroit has shaped your artistry?
I think that the landscaping alone does something to me. Just to have grown up in a neighborhood that I did on the East Side and saw just intergenerational interactions with community members and citizens alike. I remember seeing both the beauty and the ugly within the city of Detroit. You know, human nature at its best and worst. And I was always able to draw upon that. By just, first acknowledging my own faults and my own successes and all those things that come with age and experience and just living life. And Detroit has a way of, I always say it has the hustle and bustle of a big city, but then it quiets down like a countryside at night. And so you have all of this experience and wonderment to take on in a day, and even into the evening. But then late at night into the wee hours of the morning, you have peace, you have solace, you have calm, and you have a time to reflect. No matter your situation within the city, it has a grace that allows you to be still and to be quiet. And I don't think many people recognize how blessed we are in the city of Detroit to have that.
Hear more on episode 30, Detroit, Hip Hop Culture and Academia with Deidre D'Essen-Smith. Kim Carson, who is, I almost feel like radio personality isn't enough because you've done the TV series. I mean, just I should just say just an all around great personality. How about that? But yeah, I'm just excited that you're here and to be able to share with me and my audience your story. So if you could kind of give people a little bit of a background as to your relationship with music and how you got started as a radio personality.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so nice to talk to you again. The last time we did this, I was interviewing you. I told you I'm much more comfortable with that.
Yeah, now it was how the tables turn, but how the turntables, as Michael Scott would say. Yeah.
Well, when you talk about music, I mean, for me in my life, when I talk, music saved my life. I doubt I'd be here if it wasn't for music. It was the great escape. I grew up in Detroit listening to WDRQ and Bill Bailey in the morning, where I later had a chance to work for him. He's a legend in the business, and just grew up with a very eclectic ear because of growing up in Detroit, and didn't really realize the full impact of music. I think just throughout my life, being a radio personality, obviously working with music every day, it was important, but the respect for music and what it can do for somebody just grew and grew and grew.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Man, Detroit has had so much influence on me musically, even though born and raised in Kalamazoo. I think kind of having the connections between Detroit and Chicago, I mean, both were like just so rich, but I mean, yeah, Detroit has shaped a lot of my electronic production. So yeah,
I mean, you sure, you had Motown, but it went. Then you had Eminem, and then the electronica movement. I mean, and disco.
Yeah,
it was just, Detroit is just rich. Detroit, I didn't realize how lucky I was. I thought the whole world was like Detroit because I grew up. I went, graduated from Denby High School on the east side. I grew up on 8 Mile and Kelly and near Eastland Mall. And I thought the whole country was like that till I got away when I was 16 and realized, wow, I grew up in a really special place. And it was a microcosm, I think, of the world, really. And musically, it was expressed that way.
Hear more on episode 33, Lessons from the Airwaves, Insights for Creatives and Innovators with Kim Carson.
I'm Miss Jenny. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I started singing when I was younger, probably elementary, middle school. I was in a girl group with my best friend. Of course, that's how I started. But then we kind of just merged apart, not relationship wise, but music wise. And I just decided to, do things on my own and release my own stuff. So.
Okay. Well, that's kind of interesting. I feel like that's a common trait for most of us who like music, at least women. We've all been a part of at least one girl group in our youth that kind of makes us giggle when we think about maybe the subject matter of the music and whatnot. I had one with my cousins that we actually called ourselves the Cousin Crew. How hilarious is that? Okay. But anyway, but yeah, it's okay. That's pretty early to get started. What do you think kind of influenced you to want to do music so early?
Well, my mom used to she used to play those concerts. You know how they used to have them on VHS tapes back in the day? But she would play them on the TV and we would just sit there and sing and dance and have fun. And I don't know, it was just always a part of my life. And I picked up on it. And then it became kind of like a therapy.
That's beautiful. So who are some of the singers that you remember that kind of drew you in when you heard them?
Oh, definitely Mariah Carey. Destiny's Child, Beyonce. Who else? Aaliyah, for sure. Monica. Alicia Keys.
Hear more on episode 44, Writing Without Fear and Finding Your Voice with Miss Jenny. Alright, and that's a wrap for this episode. I've been your host, music producer Chick with Beats, and once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. I'd like to thank all the wonderful guests that I've had on the show to come through and share their wisdom and story. I'd also like to thank my home station, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Make sure you come back next week. I got more goodness lined up, so till next time, you know where to find me. Tune in, tell a friend, and I'll see you then. Peace.